The 160-mile journey from Kyoto to Kanazawa takes about 4 hours by coach. In built-up areas, Japanese motorways have noise barriers, which make filming a bit difficult. But once out in the open country, you can get good views across the farmland. Regular stops at services show the Japanese truckers' love of chrome and some interesting snacks, such as octopus and ginger on a stick. After more agricultural land and a few tunnels, we eventually came to the coast of the Sea of Japan. Arriving in Kanazawa, we went to the Kenruko-en Gardens, one of Japan's 3 great gardens. It dates back to the early 17th century and is designed to be beautiful in all seasons. This stone lantern is a symbol of the garden and of Kanazawa. It has a distinct shape, especially its uneven legs. On top of the war memorial there's a statue of a legendary figure of Japanese mythology. This is the flower viewing bridge, mainly for cherry blossom time. Close to the garden is a well where, 1200 years ago, a peasant stopped to wash his potatoes. Suddenly flakes of gold began to bubble up from the well, giving Kanazawa its name, which means marsh of gold. People like to use the water from this well for the tea ceremony, such as here in the garden tea house. In one of the lakes is a small island in the shape of a turtle. The fountain is gravity-fed from one of the lakes in the garden. Some of the ancient trees need a bit of help to stay upright. Almost. The sculpture stands outside the Museum of Contemporary Art, just across the road. The following morning, before driving to Takayama, we visited the Nomura Samurai house in the old part of Kanazawa. A river rushes down the side of the street and a bridge leads into the entrance of the house, where we had to remove our shoes. Verandas overlook the lush green gardens, which can be viewed from every room in the house. Samurai were the hereditary military nobility and officer caste of medieval and early modern Japan. They were well-paid retainers of the great feudal landlords and had special privileges, such as wearing 2 swords. They cultivated codes of martial values, indifference to pain, and unflinching loyalty. The rooms in the house are divided by decorative paper screen doors. Above some of the doors are beautiful carved wooden transoms. In one room is a Shinto shrine, and nail holes in the timber frame have decorative caps over them. There are displays of ceramics, weapons, and old coins. Back outside we could see where gaps in the wall allowed water to reach the gardens, as well as the typical earthenware tile-topped walls. The roofs of the houses are of glazed tile. We drove for an hour and a half, passing little villages and fields, before we came to the mountains, and eventually Gokayama. Here we were to learn how to make washi paper from the pulped inner bark of local shrubs. First we chose a selection of cutouts to decorate the paper we were going to make. Then we were shown the pulp, which is mixed with water in this big tank. The expert demonstrated how we should pick up the pulp in the frames we had all been given. Then it was our turn. Next we put our cutouts on the pulp, with great artistic flair. A staff member then poured a glaze over the paper and took it to a rack where the frame top was removed. The base of the frame was upturned onto a mesh and lifted off the paper. This was then passed over a suction chamber to remove much of the water. Finally, it was transferred from the mesh onto a heated panel to dry. Meanwhile, we had a good look round the gift shop, where there were lots of souvenirs made from the paper. Then we were handed the results of our labour.
All my own work.
We drove on to Shirakawago. The village is famous for its Gassho style thatched buildings. It was in one of these that we had lunch. We cooked the meat ourselves on a leaf over a burner.
I'll start to talk shortly.
Just outside the restaurant were small farms where they grew buckwheat. There were rice paddies as well, and the newly harvested rice was supposedly being dried. But the rain didn't help one bit. We walked through the village in the pouring rain until we came to a group of Gassho houses. The Japanese word Gassho means palms of hand placed together, much like the Indian Namaste. The thatch roofs of these houses do resemble that pose. We went into a 300-year-old Gassho house known as Wada's house. The floor is covered with tatami mats, and in the middle is a heating stove, and suspended above this is a spark guard, since the building is made of wood. There's a family shrine in the corner. The upper floor was used in silk production, and there's a display of equipment used in the process. The cocoons are found in mulberry trees, the food of silkworms, and stored here until needed. The roof is lashed together with ropes to give flexibility against the weight of the deep snow which falls here every winter, as you can see in this photo. There are lovely views of the paddies and village from the windows. We continued along the stream and past the water wheel down to the raging river, which we crossed to return to the coach. A further 1.5 hours took us to Takayama, where we stayed in a ryoken, where shoes had to be left at reception. The beds were mattresses on low bases on tatami mats.
And here we have the goodie bag. So what's in the goodie bag? A pair of socks, a hand towel, a bath towel, and a rubbish bag. And in the wardrobe we've got a pair of pyjamas. And look what else I found in the wardrobe. And not only that, there's one for ladies as well.
The shower was pretty compact. Because we were in stocking feet, a pair of flip-flops was provided to wear in the toilet. This huge spider stayed on the window for 2 days, fortunately on the outside. There have been spring and autumn festivals in the middle of Takayama since the 17th century. The highlight of the festival is the parade of large floats through the streets, and some of the floats are displayed in the exhibition hall. There are 11 floats in total, and at any one time 4 of them are on display, and they change 3 times a year. Decorative carving, lacquering and beautiful metalwork is found not only on the outside of the floats, but inside as well, under the roof and behind the panels, where the work is amazingly detailed. They're also decorated with beautifully embroidered drapery. The floats are festooned with lanterns, since the main parade takes place at night. Next door, in a smaller hall, is Sakurayama Nikko-kan, a 10th scale model of some of the most gorgeous and popular temples in Japan. Leaving the exhibition, we passed a cat rescue centre as we walked through the streets of the old town to see the Kusabe Folk Crafts Museum. Housed in a merchant's house built in 1879, it displays folk art and crafts from the local area. These are hibachi room heaters.
We checked with this ticket, so please hold.
This room contains hair decorations and hair oil pots. There's also a very formal kimono.
Unless it's sewn on and it holds it down to the floor.
This is a baby minder chair. There are both Buddhist and Shinto shrines.
2 religions. They used to be mixed up.
Outside is a pretty, if rather damp, garden. Next we walk to the Myagawa Morning Market, where the riverside road is lined with open-fronted shops selling fruit, vegetables and other local farm products. We were given a sample of mushroom soup, which was delicious, but very hot.
So what do? Do you just boil those dried mushrooms?
Then I bought a bag of the shiitake mushrooms. There's clearly no wrong weather for ice cream. Then we walk down Kamisano-machi Street. This well-preserved part of the historic city features traditional houses, shops, cafes and sake breweries, some of which have been operating for centuries. These people were queuing for hot cakes. Speaking of food, it was time to eat and, again, we had to cook our own. The owner of the restaurant wanted to photograph everyone. Then we returned to the hotel to dry out.